welcome back to the Leo Moses Entrepreneur Podcast. I know it's been a while, but we are back. And jumping right into today's podcast is basically I want to speak about, the opportunities of the pandemic, right? As simple as some opportunities people have already taken, and then there are some that are yet to be taken, right? So I just want to drop some quick nuggets concerning some opportunities that entrepreneurs can find even during such a time as this, right? And I know internationally, like in the United States, we have a lot of places that already opened back up. Some schools are already back out, but in Trinidad and Tobago, we are still waiting till the end of this week, October 24th, 2020, to get some updates as to what will take place, what might be relaxed, if anything at all, right, based on our numbers. And so, as we speak here, I am just thinking of some of the opportunities, and let me start from jump. When this pandemic first was announced, and measures were being put in place, it wasn't even law yet in Trinidad and Tobago, but we had a lot of entrepreneurs who quickly got to it. Even young people under 18, they jumped on mask creation, and I know for a fact that was able to sustain many people, who were making masks by the hundreds, by the thousands for distribution. And then we had people who actually had their mask business a part of their official business, and even the government partnered with some of these brands in order to successfully do mass distribution and so on to the various people who needed it. So we see clearly that, even though this was it is a pandemic, and it was a serious matter, to some it would have seen as a threat. To some of the businesses that had closed down, it definitely was a threat that they couldn't work through. But to others who were able to adapt, or who were able to be, as we say, quick on the draw, quick to move, quick to act, right? Those who are proactive, or even if you are reactive but you're quick enough, these are the people who benefited, a lot in this time by not just the mass creation, but then we had people and companies getting into hand sanitizer creation, right? We even had transportation businesses that began offering or ramping up their service of steam cleaning vents and seats and so on, because that kind of clean will definitely kill some germs, because now it's of paramount importance to have your vehicles clean if you're offering a public service. If you're offering some type of service where people or things are in your car and has to go to other people or be in contact with other people, you want to make sure you have that clean environment for your clients to feel safe. And so these are some of the other businesses that really saw opportunity even in the pandemic. And while I'm talking all of this, I'm just really trying to strum your brain to think about things that you could probably, the ways in which you could look at this and look at things that you could implement even all now, because we don't know, while the place might be relaxed or some of the lockdown measures may be reversed, we know it will still take a while until everything becomes normal again, if it does become normal again. And if it doesn't, well, you have a longer time to capitalize on all what you could be implementing right now to deal with such a time as this. And so we had the masks, we had the hand sanitizers, we have the car wash companies that were beefing up their offering of steam cleaning and sanitization of vehicles and so on. Of course, we had people who would have quickly imported masks, like the medical masks and so on, who would have even imported, because you don't always have to make everything from scratch. If you have the means, you can always just import and resell, buy and sell, buy and sell. That's a really good way. I mean, the major companies in Trinidad and Tobago, they make their money from importing goods and reselling it at a profit. So there's nothing wrong in that at all. And it could save some time. And if you don't have, the machinery and equipment to make something, of course you would have to import it if you get it at a good price. And of course there are many channels in which you can, search and find things directly from manufacturers. They call them private label or white label, whereby you just place your label, your logo, your name, and the product could be sold as your brand. A lot of companies do that as well, right? They have the same generic product, but they just change labels on it. And well, in some cases, if your brand is strong, you can actually charge more than another brand for the same product. All right, but that's not the topic today. We're just dealing with opportunities, and of course, I'm not going to keep this podcast very long, as we're just back. Don't want to, dare out. Don't want to bore my listeners today, right? But opportunities, we're dealing with opportunities, and so another opportunity that comes up in this pandemic is focused on our students from preschool all the way to tertiary level. As we can see, the need in Trinidad and Tobago, there was a huge need. There still is, but a lot of people are stepping in and filling these needs, right? But there was a huge need for laptops amongst the majority of the school population, right? There were a lot of students who didn't have access to a computer, or due to this homeschooling thing now, that has to be used in order to keep the children safe and away from other students where they might have contracted the virus easier. There were a lot of families who didn't have enough. It didn't have at all, and then there are some families who they may have 3 and 4 children, and each of them may have school at the same time. So therefore, you needed more than one device per child. And so, of course, we saw tech shops, computer stores, laptop stores, really stepping in and making the most out of the opportunity. Right, I am pretty sure laptop companies, laptop businesses, computer businesses that didn't get any attention for the majority of the year suddenly became, popular, right? Because everybody was searching for a laptop, and if you were able to, have a decent price or offer a sale on your products, then of course you did well, right? Across the board, whether you are a small company or an individual just buying and selling laptops, if you were able to order in a laptop or 2 and sell it for profit, I'm sure, you were successful, right? So we have opportunity in the tech space, right? Laptop is just a part of it, because along with laptops, we know students will need now flash drives, with enough space to store projects and work and so on, because even though when the measures reverse, you will still, I'm certain that they'll still have to have a high degree of things being conducted online, right? Even as Trinidad and Tobago, hopes to move more digital, of course you still have opportunity in that tech space, in the digital space, and I think you can still, it's not too late. If you're thinking of being in you like computers, you like cell phones, you're interested in tablets, whatever it may be, I think this opportunity is even more ripe now in Trinidad and Tobago specifically, right? For you to get into that business and earn some money as an entrepreneur, because it's a need. Now, apart from the students, one of the other opportunities that reared its head is online or virtual streaming, right, of events. So that includes funeral services, it includes weddings, it includes baby showers, it includes christenings, it includes church services, religious services on the whole, and the likes, right? You can get the idea. And so if you were interested before in these in recording and being into media, right? Recording and lighting and sound and so on. Of course, there's opportunity now for you to offer your services, right? I know someone personally who does that, is advertising it steadily. If you are having a wedding, you can't have as many people in the building anymore. You cannot, if you are attending a funeral, same thing applies, right? You cannot gather in the amounts that we formerly knew, right? A lot of times in Trinidad and Tobago, I could speak for, a wedding is usually has 150 plus people in attendance, right? And so far during the pandemic, the most people we were able to officially announce to be publicly together was 25. That's before they rolled it back to 10, and then it went to 5, and now it's back to 10, right? But you get the point, right? The normal amount of people can't be in these buildings anymore. It's not safe, and I think even if they roll back, they may still have so much guidelines that will limit, like when they open the rules to say if your building can accommodate alternating pews or 6 feet apart, then how much ever people could fit with that rule, well, that's the amount of people. But that still would limit the amount of people who could be in that particular space. And so it will have, need for people who either, these are some of the businesses that come to mind as we speak. You can be selling or renting equipment to stream and record. You can offer the service yourself of recording events on behalf of the host, and you can also offer editing, right? There are people who just simply focus on editing of these things. Somebody records it and you just fine-tune it, you make it good, you make it look good, you cut what shouldn't be there, and you keep what should, and you make this thing into a nice almost like a movie. You make it into a nice thing that can be distributed, to the people. So there are people who simply focus on doing that. So those are some of the opportunities of the bat. Of course, including also in the entertainment industry. Those of you who may be in entertainment, I'm speaking from not just soca artists or singers. I'm talking about people who probably do dance, people who are into poetry, people who are into art, general bubble, right? These people have, you have the opportunity now to go virtual, to do your thing online, and there are many, sites you can utilize, Eventbrite and so on, to create tickets online for people to purchase, to then have access to you, right? We saw local comedians utilizing this opportunity, this thing that I'm speaking about, whereby we have the government open up certain infrastructure to have people into entertainment, have them use this space. And so all you really need is a proper space, and then, as I said before, somebody who would do the streaming, who would do the recording, right? Live, it could be live. There are a lot of softwares that stream immediately live, and you can actually just have your tickets sold. People pay to come and see, but they are seeing from the comfort of their homes in their screens, right? So that in itself is an opportunity as well. If you're into, entertainment, you don't have to be the one recording. If you're into producing something to sell, which is your entertainment, your skill, your humor, whatever it may be, your talents, right? You can get this done virtually. So don't be down and out thinking about, the fact that we don't have this event next year, or we don't have this right now, we cannot gather, and my business depends on gathering. You just have to really be thinking about redoing your business model, right? Just think of a new model. You don't have to close down. You could actually just remodel your business. And yes, it's something new, but I know for a fact that during this pandemic, we've been inside mostly for 7 going into 8 months now, if I'm doing that math correctly, and people are fed up. People are in need of some form of entertainment, and so it's good if whatever you offer, if you depended on people being in the particular space, you just need to look at it now from a perspective of, offering offering your business virtually, right? And it has been working for those who have been taking it up. You may need to do some studies on Zoom, do some studies on Eventbrite, how to create online tickets, how to stream privately, how to have, just look it up. Google is there. A lot of the information is free for you to really learn, so that has also been another opportunity. And of course, we generally have opportunities in the digital space. Anything that can introduce or reduce unnecessary human interaction. Of course, we cannot depend on keeping humans totally away from each other. But I'm speaking about, if you have business to do, right? You are not doing business like at the banks or so. They are not friends, to say you don't mind being in interaction with them. Or if you order things, you and the person delivering there, you are not necessarily friends. And so you may want a safe, clean way in which to do business without you really having to be, physically at any particular place or, So you can, of course, think of ways in which you can get things going. And right now we have the opportunity to come up with, tech businesses in Trinidad and Tobago and receive, some tax breaks, right? That was recently passed in the local budget that, tech businesses can receive those tax breaks and several other benefits because we are looking to move digital, right? Of course, we have people who are working on e-payments systems similar to PayPal, for us here in the Caribbean and Trinidad and Tobago. And so I want you to think, if you're into that, this is your time to really shine, right? So you can be looking at it from producing items that don't require you to have any medical background, such as the masks and the hand sanitizers and so on. That will continue to be, in place. I mean, as we say that, even companies who are building these sinks that businesses now have outside for you to wash your hands before you get in, they would have also benefited from such a time as this, because now people are more. It's mandatory to sanitize before you get into buildings, whether it be through the hand sanitizer or soap and water. And some companies find it cheaper to just have soap and water, so you invest in that sink once. And you use the water that was already running to the building, and then of course you just have to provide soap, right? And a lot of time we already have businesses, since before the pandemic, we already have people making, homemade soaps and soaps to wash your clothes and so on, and labeling it and selling it out there. So, there are ways in which you can get reasonably priced soap to offer. But I'm dealing with the people who were involved in creating and selling or distributing this sink, right? It's something that really could make you some money as an entrepreneur and benefit you for some time to come. Also, we have, due to the pandemic and borders being closed and flights being limited and so on, of course we saw where Amazon and all, reduced their shipments to essential items at one point, right? And so what we need to look into is that there are opportunities in agriculture as we speak, because food security is national security. And so if you realize that something like a pandemic could affect food, not just the availability but the prices of food from the supermarkets or so on, then a lot of people began seeing the need to grow their own food, right? And then there are some people, unfortunately, based on based on where you live, based on the housing arrangement that you have, you may not have a garden. You may not have the space to have a garden to really, plant your own food, and therefore you will be dependent on somebody else, the farmer, right, the local vegetable stall guy or something. You will be dependent on them for your food. And so, because I'm speaking on behalf of the entrepreneurs now, if you are fortunate enough to have land, to have your garden or enough space, or you would have invested in a hydroponic system, those vertical systems where you can plant and save on space and have everything, your quick crops grow right there, right? You have an opportunity now to grow crops and provide competitive prices compared to the big groceries and so on, right? So there are opportunities, as so far I said, the medical space where it pertains to masks and sanitization products, in terms of technology for the students, for people who want to hold events that depended on people's attendance, those things are going online. If you have any tech ideas or experience in businesses that we can start, some more digital options. A lot of people even capitalized on the business opportunity of deliveries for restaurants that depended on in-house dining, right? We have opportunities in agriculture, as you can see, because food is important, and when things like this happen, it can shoot food prices through the roof, and we don't want that because a lot of people are not really working. Some people are still losing jobs and so on, and I'm hoping to also reach out to these people, hoping that you are here in the podcast, so that even if you have been laid off, before you spend away the last salary you received or whatever, you can look into one of these opportunities and see how you can actually work to do something on the entrepreneurial level and grow that funds, right? Or use profits and see about yourself and your family, right? Because it's all about entrepreneurship. I believe entrepreneurship is the answer to solving many financial problems, and that's just my take on things. So I highlighted several opportunities, and I'm going to leave it there for now. Of course, this is in no way an extensive list. I always encourage, if you're listening to this on Anchor, feel free to send a message on my social media. You can reach out to me on my social media platforms at Leah CL Moses. Right, you'll find me there, and I will love your feedback. And if you would like to hear something on my podcast, or collaborate with me and have a joint podcast episode, highlighting what business you are into, what opportunity you may have taken since the pandemic, how you may have restructured your business. I am all open for collaborating with other entrepreneurs. You do not have to be in Trinidad and Tobago. You can be anywhere in the world. Once you speak English, we can do something together. So thank you for listening to the podcast episode today, and see you next Monday.